Here we go again. Everyone's had a bit of a rest and now we look forward to test number 4. This series is far from boring. It's England v India. It's at the Ageas Bowl. The side that are leading have more questions to answer. The side that are trailing would hope to make this a grandstand finish before the 5th test at the Oval. This is ESPN Cricket for Matchday. I am Ronu Kapoor. We're looking ahead to the first session on day 1 between England and India. This series is looking as good as the panel that I have with me for it. Ajit Agarkar and Nick Compton, two very good looking gentlemen to talk about this test match. Ajit, good to have you back.
Thanks, Ronak. Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, since we've done a live England-India test together, and good time for you to join into the series because India seem to have really turned things around.
Yeah, for a team that's trailing 2-1, they seem to be starting favourites in this game. I mean, if they play as well as they did in the previous one, I can't see how England can stop them.
And my God, the amount of questions that have been asked in this long gap between Test 3 and 4 in the English media and the British media, the selections and whatnot, all of a sudden we know that India are unchanged and England had to make all sorts of changes. Nick Compton, this is a big Test match for England, isn't it?
A huge test match for England and a chance to win the series 3-1. But for that to happen, they need really big performances from their experienced players. That's why you have experience in your team. That's when Alistair Cook now comes into his fore. Can he deliver when it matters most? And I think all eyes will be on him to try and really get that England top order off to a good start.
And he's done well as the England captain, Joe Root, by ensuring that he wins the toss. It was Virat Kohli who called wrong. Tosses have had little to do with success, but it depends on when the best conditions to bat happen to come. It looks like blue skies. Sanjay Manjrekar said it's a flawless pitch. Joe Root has decided that England will bat. So let's get first reactions. There's a bit of a smile from Virat Kohli behind, almost wishing that he would have been ahead in this game. And we've also heard talk of possible turn at Southampton towards the end. Is this a big toss to win?
I'm not so sure actually whether Root wanted to win that toss. I think he would have been happier just having lost the toss and been made to do whatever Virat then decides. I don't think Virat will be too disappointed. India batted first in Lords in difficult conditions and batted in the last game as well, and there were contrasting results. So, look, obviously the sun's out and we know in England, but it's still a fresh pitch. And from all reports that you have, we heard that it is likely to do. It's the first morning of the test, so you'd expect that England will have to bat well. I don't think they've batted well in this series, especially the top order, and it could be a huge test for them again.
So is it a good thing then, Nick, that this top order, which has been short of runs and questions, like Ajit said, have been asked of it, will get what we believe is the best of the batting? Big toss for you, or not such a big deal?
Well, we'll get the answers to the many questions pretty soon, I'm sure. I think it's a good decision. I think looking at that Hampshire wicket, it was quite green yesterday, but I think when we arrived this morning, speaking to a few of the guys, the grass has been taken off slightly. It doesn't look very green now. I think it's a good decision to get in there and bat first. But look, a lot of pressure on the England top order. They need to deliver. Looking at Johnny Bairstow coming up to number 4, he's been disappointed not retaining the gloves. You know, are batsmen playing out of position? That is the question. I still think there are a lot of questions to be answered, but England have to deliver today. Today is a big day for them to really set up the series and perhaps put a nail in India's coffin and beat the number 1 team in the world.
I mean, the good thing is, I mean, India will have to bat last. If depending on how the test goes, obviously, but if it goes the distance, and from all reports that we've heard, that there might be some sort of help for spin that's come in, and England have a couple of decent ones if the pitch does turn out the way everyone's been talking about.
Yep, like Ajit says, England did announce their team, as they tend to do under Joe Root, about 18 hours before the start of the game. And just to bring you up to speed, if you didn't catch the news on ESPN Cricket 4, that they have made changes. Chris Woakes has injured his thigh. Back comes Sam Curran, man of the match from the first test. And there is place for Moeen Ali, who's just come at the back of a double 100 in domestic cricket. And could he possibly bat 3? That's the question we'll get the answer to. As of now, we've slotted him at 7. Johnny Bairstow's fit enough to bat but not take the gloves. Those go to Jos Buttler. Ollie Pope, the unfortunate absentee, and Alistair Cook is of course available. Right, let's just get quick word on the batting order then, Nick. I think that's the combination we want to have, and I'll then also get Melinda Farrell, who's waiting patiently outside Southampton. But where would you bat Moeen Ali, Nick Compton?
Yeah, I think Moen's in the right position there. I think they've tried him up the order as a specialist batsman. He's quite a free-flowing player, so I don't think he fits into the top three for me. What I've been saying for a long time now is to get a New England opening combination. For whatever reason, Alistair Cook or his successor or his partner, it hasn't worked at the top of the innings, and I feel it's time now for England to breed a new opening partnership, two young men who can start their tenure together. I thought that potentially giving Alistair Cook a chance to bat at number 3 as the experienced campaigner. England haven't had a number 3 for some time, and that then puts Joe Root in his rightful place at number 4, where I think he can be more free scoring and play his natural game. Johnny Bairstow coming in at number 5. Johnny at number 4, I'm not convinced about that. We know what a fantastic player he is, how good he has been over the last few years, but I still think that Johnny's an attacking player, somebody who will benefit from batting at number 5. Of course, you've got Ben Stokes and Jos Buttler. So I think at the moment it's a little bit makeshift, but it's about performing at the time. It's about the team at the moment. And although Johnny would have liked to have retained the gloves, I think from a team perspective, it's the right thing at the moment.
He's suggesting something which seems to be radical. Alistair Cook drops down to 3, man who's played 150 tests opening. Is it a thought you'd give some thought?
I mean, it does make a lot of sense. I mean, that puts Root to 4, where takes a little bit of pressure off him, especially when your openers are batting as poorly as the English ones have in this series. Your main batsman is in there quite early when the bowlers are on top. I mean, okay, he's one of the best players in the world, and you kind of expect that as a player, but yeah, the only thing I'm surprised is I thought at some stage England would think of getting a right-handed opener. I think makes Ishant Sharma's job a lot easier. Two left-handers who he's bowling really well at the moment. Shami's not bowling too badly at them either. So does Bumrah. And 2 out-of-form batsmen and 2 left-handers. It just, when you get early wickets with that new ball, just put so much more pressure on that middle order who are, most of them are free-flowing.
That's one way of getting rid of Nick Compton from our studios. Not that we want to. A right-handed opening batsman, right? Johnny Bairstow is an interesting one, Nick, because he's a good bat, but because of the gloves, there's thought that he can't bat any higher. Would you be tempted to play Johnny Bairstow at 3 then, and possibly Root at 4?
Look, I suggested playing Johnny Bairstow at number 1 just to put a cat amongst the pigeons. I felt that you're right. The 2 left-handers, as Ajit has said, have been bowled very well at. Sharma, Bumrah, they've all bowled at the left-handers very well. They don't look very comfortable. So that right-left-hand combination would be a good addition. Johnny's got an injured finger. He's got a chance to go up the order. And, it's not something that might be in the future. I mean, but if you opened the batting with him, I think it could be a good chance for him to go out there and play almost a bit of a Virender Sehwag role. Who knows? He could be the next Virender Sehwag for England. They want to play a more positive game. Trevor Bayliss has said that he would like 2 attacking players in the top 3. That lends itself to that. And of course, you've got to remember, England have got a very powerful middle order. And sometimes, because the top order aren't delivering, you don't necessarily want to then makeshift the middle order to try and compensate for a poor top order. So I think England need to get the top order right. I think they need Cook, as I've said, it needs to deliver the goods today in this game. I think if he can, that will show his experience up the order. But I think Johnny Bairstow is a bit of an experiment. I think they're hiding it slightly and saying that he's got a bad finger. But I think in some ways they are looking for Johnny to become an out-and-out batter and potentially for Jos to take the gloves. I think that is something they're looking to do, and there's no doubt Johnny Bairstow's not happy with that. And I can understand he's worked very hard to get into that position.
Right, Melinda Farrell has got the best eye of what's been happening in this England camp. There's a change in the slip cordon. Johnny Bairstow is, of course, only going to be batting. Mel, good to have you on the show. Just from whatever you've observed, Bairstow batting with that injured finger, anything you've seen from the nets, how's he looking? He's obviously cleared to play. But hearing Nick too suggesting maybe we could see Bairstow push up just to change things up a little. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, isn't it? England have this jigsaw puzzle of talented players, which is heavy on middle order talent, especially with batting sort of around that 5 to 7 or even 8, really, when you look at how deep. And you're just not quite sure whether they've figured out how to fit it to make the right picture. As we all know, Joe Root doesn't want to bat where he is. Johnny Bairstow doesn't want to give up the gloves. Others sort of going up and down. They haven't nailed it. And I guess the irony is that what has been felt has been the biggest, I guess, weakness for England has been the opening batting. But while they've been forced to make these changes because of injuries, that's meant that that's the one area that they haven't wanted to change because they don't want to destabilise everything. The interesting thing about the slips cordon in particular is obviously with Bairstow handing over the gloves very, very, very reluctantly, I might say, to Joss Buttler. We've seen a change there next to him, so Alistair Cook being joined by Joe Root and Gordon. Of course, England have dropped a huge number of chances, probably most damagingly that of Virat Kohli on more than one occasion. I thought what was interesting, Joe Root said he didn't want to go.
Right.
Criticised by Trevor Bayliss, his catch.
On what seems to be a beautiful day in Southampton, we're just having a little trouble with Melinda Farrell, but we'll try and re-establish that link for us. She has made the pertinent point, though, that there's a change in the look of the slip cordon and that Johnny Bairstow was reluctant. There's also one more thing I'd like to get Nick and Ajit on is what's the big deal of Joe Root wanting to bat at 4 so badly when, if it makes such a big difference. Let's start with Bairstow, since she raised the point. That reluctant to give up the gloves, I thought a keeper would be very happy to just find himself somewhere in the field and play as a proper batsman.
I mean, it shows also a good attitude as well.
Yeah.
Like Nick said, he's worked really hard to get that spot. Obviously enjoys being keeper. With a finger injury, I think it's the right decision that England's made. I think he's too important for him with the bat at the moment in their current sort of scenario with the kind of form their batters are in. And you would want him to have the best chance to be fit to bat well and try and get runs for them. So, no-brainer for me, especially if you're carrying a finger injury.
Okay, just before I hear from Nick Compton, let's hear from the England captain first. Joe Root did address this point when he spoke to the media ahead of this test match.
Joss is going to keep this week, just with obviously a slight fracture. I think the safest thing to do is for Johnny just to play as a batter. He is fit to bat, and we're batting number 4 this week. I think he's fully aware that it's a lot to ask him to keep with a broken finger or a slight crack in it. So he's obviously frustrated and disappointed. He loves doing the job. He's done extremely well the last couple of years. But that's part of international sport. It's not always, you don't always get what you want, and hopefully he uses it in the right way to drive his game forward and to continue to work really hard at that side of his game, and those two can push each other to keep improving in that department.
Okay, thoughts from Joe Root. So you don't always get what you want in international cricket, and it's more reminiscent of this England team. I saw a tweet from Nick Holt, the well-known British writer, that everyone's batting in a position that they don't belong to. Root wants to bat 4, he's batting 3. Butler wants to bat 7, he's going to bat 6. It's all a bit of a jumble at the moment. Ever batted with a broken finger, Nick Compton?
I have, yes. I batted in a test match at Lords against New Zealand with a broken finger. It's not very easy, but I think it's something you've got to put to the back of your mind. Adrenaline, a lot of painkillers, and a bit of toughen up, and you get out there and you do the job for your country. And I think Johnny Bairstow is that kind of dynamic character. He's a strong character. He wants to perform. That's what I like about him, and that's what he brings to this England team. And the fact that he shows a bit of passion in relinquishing the gloves is good to see in many ways. Yes, it's a team sport. Sometimes you don't get what you want. And I think that Johnny is good enough to play as an out-and-out batter. Whether that's at number 4, I'm not sure. We don't want to inhibit his natural free-flowing style. And in some ways, he hasn't batted really at 4 for Yorkshire even. So, again, talking about batting out of positions, for me, the key is to make sure that England's best players are batting in their best positions, and I don't think we're there yet at the moment.
Okay, it's all about one innings, and suddenly the conversation could change, and England have that opportunity in the first session. This is a historic day for Indian cricket because the biggest change that has come from Virat Kohli is that no change has been made by Virat Kohli. For the 38th time in his captaincy, he has decided to go with the exact same 11 that had such a fine performance a week or so back at Trent Bridge. So there's no place for Ravindra Jadeja, we thought, with England announcing 2 spinners in their lineup just before the game, that maybe that would play on the Indian captain's mind, but he sticks with the same team. R. Ashwin has recovered from whatever stiffness he had in the thigh in the last game on the hip, and it's the same team. Happy with that?
Yeah. Thankfully.
That's it.
Thankfully he didn't find a reason to get a spinner in. No, they played so well in that test match at Nottingham. There wasn't any reason other than injuries to change that lineup. I mean, Hardik Pandya also had a good test match, which at times you could question whether as an all-rounder whether Jadeja could do a better job, but that he's put those doubts to rest in the last test match. So and the conditions again, there will be some help at the start of this inning. So 4 seamers might be a good thing for India as well.
The fact that they've got their test 11 wrong in the first 2 tests, or at least second test, they admitted that they played the extra spinner. When you've seen the home team announce the team, very few teams do it, but the home team announcing it yesterday, they've seen 2 spinners. Would that have played on your mind?
Yeah, but I think England dropped a batsman, which India can't afford to do. And because England have all-rounders in Curran and Stokes and Moeen Ali bats, so they've got the luxury of still having 4 seamers and then additional 2 spinners. So the combination of the 2 teams is completely different. I don't think India can afford to leave a batsman out as well as they've batted in the previous test.
You wouldn't have brought in a Jadeja for a Mohammad Shami, for instance?
Not at all. I think he's one of your main wicket takers.
Right.
Bowls at difficult stages of the innings as well. So no, I'm
seamers,
glad they haven't changed the team.
All right, Nick, we spoke of this in the preview too, that we should look more at Moeen Ali as a batsman that's been selected who just happens to also be an off spinner, and not look at it as England playing 2 spinners. You would go with that?
Yeah, in many ways. I think Hampshire is the type of wicket, when I've played there, that can break up a little bit. I wouldn't say it breaks up, but it definitely assists a bit of spin. We saw Moeen Ali bowl exceptionally well against India the last time he played at the Rose Bowl in Southampton. So there clearly is a little bit of opportunity for the ball to turn if we get to the 5th day. At the moment, the teams have done well to conclude games earlier than the 5th day, but if it does get there, then I guess England do have 2 spinners who potentially can take some wickets, particularly Moeen Ali against the left-handers. That brings him into play, but he definitely brings another added advantage in terms of the batting. They've lost young Ollie Pope. They've got Moeen Ali, who's in good form. He's just come off the back of a double century, so a good thing. But in terms of India's team, I have to say it's about accountability and about being in form at the right time. And at the moment, they've rested a lot on their captain Virat Kohli. But I think Jiteshwar Pujara's performance, getting some time in the middle, Rahane looked very good as well. I think their form could be coming back to them at a good time now, and they need to really support their captain if they're going to go on and challenge not only to draw this test, but potentially win the test series. The likes of KL Rahul, there's a few question marks around him. He needs to put in a good performance as well.
It was Moeen Ali who recorded that 6 for 67 that you saw at Southampton, which was at the time his best bowling figures in Test cricket. So happy memories of this ground for Mo Ali. Just to put in perspective how Southampton tends to help spin and pace, it's a small sample size given there's not much Test cricket that's happened at the Ageas Bowl, but we have got you numbers from domestic cricket. Just to give you an idea, from the 2018 first class season, it does look like, of course, obviously more wickets for the Pacers, but just observing averages, it's not much of a difference. So it's the kind of wicket that we know can assist the spinners as the test match gets deeper. Nick, this time of year we've seen Sanjay Manjrekar mention it's a flawless pitch with a little bit of green, but green at times can be deceptive. This time of year, how do you expect this wicket to play?
Look, I think it's similar to most Test wickets. The first hour is going to be a challenge, a real challenge for Keaton Jennings and Alistair Cook. Can they get through that new ball, that threatening new ball? India have been so good of late. They really have bowled well to the left-handers, so that's going to be a real challenge. But I do think the wicket is a good one for batting. I do think it's the right decision to bat first by Joe Root. Can England get that big score, that big 400-plus score? I think it will be a good batting track through the middle of the day. Not too quick, evenly paced, and a chance for England's batters to cash in.
Right, we have plenty more that we want to talk about as we build up to the first session of the 4th Test. So stay with us on ESPN Cricket for Matchday.
Catch the best of the England-India series on ESPN Cricinfo. Match highlights, clips and the best moments.
Good to still have you on ESPN Cricinfo Matchday. Looking ahead to the first session of play of this 4 Test. We know that England have won the toss. Joe Root will bat. Good time to just have a detailed chat about both teams, what their mental approach is like, what their mental health is like going into this Test match. England, all the questions being asked after the Trent Bridge defeat. India's Lord's defeat seems a long time back. There was still a chance that Virat Kohli might have decided to change things up. The Murli Vijay has been dropped. This side, in some ways, would have been in need of some security, some stability. It's a good time to stick with the same 11.
Yeah, I think so. I think the biggest issue that India's, had is their openers, or their batting in general. Apart from Virat, no one really had stepped up. Rahane had a good innings in the previous Test. So did Pujara, which is a sort of welcome return to form, if you like. I know it's only one innings.
Yes.
The openers gave them a start as well. Of course, when you're on top, England had only batted for 38 overs. The bowlers were a bit knackered coming out immediately in the second innings. But both openers gave them a start, which then makes the job of the middle order a lot easier. But batting was their obvious concern. I don't think India had bowled badly at all, in spite of those 2 losses in the first 2 Tests. And hopefully they've got that right. And they bat second in this game now, where you'd expect that any sort of moisture. Ball swung around, so it has been difficult for the more batsmen from both teams. But if India can get their batting right, I think, like I said before, I think they'll start favourites for me.
While we are discussing, it's funny almost, Nick, that we're discussing England's managing of their players and this insecurity that's suddenly been bred in the English players, because we've been having that chat with Ajit and VVS Lakshman about India, that they've been unfair to a number of players. You're Ollie Pope right now. You got 2 Tests, you batted at 3 in a position you never batted in county cricket, and out you go. That sense of insecurity, now there's Keaton Jennings, this could be a big test for him, Alistair Cook. How do you address that now? You've picked your 11, but is that a factor now going into not just young players but also established players?
Yeah, sure, but there's no better way to quieten or silence those doubts or fears by getting off to a good start today. You get to 100 for no wicket at lunchtime, you get through the new ball, and suddenly everything quietens down. Belief comes back, the team start pulling together, and senior players particularly start to contribute. I think that's the best way to silence any doubters in my experience, but there's no doubt there are question marks. The likes of Keaton Jennings, who has looked quite limited, who potentially hasn't left the ball as well as he can, and as well as an opening batsman should be expected to. So there are doubts there. I think there have been doubts over Alistair Cook's opening partner for some time now. But the important thing is, I suppose, Alistair Cook, the senior man, can he perform when it matters most? Ollie Pope has got to count himself unlucky. Got into the Test team, batted in a position that was a little bit alien to him. Perhaps having gone with him, they should have stuck with him, but batted him further down the order. Moeen Ali doing well, and also having the off-spin to his repertoire obviously added a bit more to the team. So I can understand him being left out. He's had a good opportunity. He's a young player. He will come again. He's a very talented guy. So I don't see it as being a bad thing necessarily. And he'll also realise what it takes technically, mentally, to bat up the order for England. He's batting at 6 for Surrey, but I think if he has ambitions of playing a long career for England, he's going to need to try and aspire to bat in the top 4 or 5 for his country, and he would have had a good insight to what Test cricket is like and to what is required at that level.
No one's had a longer career for this England team than Alistair Cook. You've batted with him, Nick. The kind of form he finds himself in, it's a hard place for a senior man to be in. He has to rely on himself to pick himself up. He can't. He has an inexperienced opening partner who's short of confidence, and he's got Ishant Sharma bowling as well as he ever has to him. I'll come to Ajit on what he can do to just counter that. But Alistair Cook, how does he pick himself up?
Yeah, it comes down to character, guys. Absolutely nothing else but digging deep. Something he's done for a long time. I suppose it's asking yourself as a batsman, can I go back to those reserves? Can I dig deep into that well and find something that can just pull out another performance. He's done it before. He's been in these positions before. I remember him getting 100 against New Zealand and also 100 against Pakistan when his place was really in threat. So he's been there before, but he's a long way down the line in his career now. There's only so many times I think you can really dig that deep, and can he pull out a performance? It's a tough place to be. I also think Alistair Cook hasn't potentially played as much cricket as he did in his formative years when he was playing a lot of cricket, playing one-day cricket. I think now county cricket is quite spread out, so when there are breaks between test matches or there aren't test match series, it's difficult for him to get the same intensity that would prepare him for a test match. You know, a few throwdowns with Mark Rampakach, the batting coach, is fine the day before a test match, but does it really get you the time in the middle, the intensity that you need when you face, you know, world-class bowlers like Bumrah and Shami, etc. And I think that's where he's just falling short slightly.
It's not just Ishant Sharma. The fact is Bumrah's no easy bowler to play early on, and Ishant Sharma that round the wicket.
And Ashwin's got him a couple of times
and
in the first
Ashwin's
test.
got him. So you got three guys that will back themselves to get an out of form Alistair Cook.
Yeah,
Anything
that's,
that you could do
I
before?
mean, like you said, you know, with age, it obviously starts getting a lot more difficult how far you can dig deep. The one worry I find with Alistair Cook is he's got a couple of starts and he's got an out. I mean, throughout his career, when he's got a start, he's made them count. I mean, his record shows it, which must be a little bit of a worry that the bowlers are still finding a way to get him out after he's been in for a few overs or for a 20 odd or a 30 odd. Which should be a bit of a worry. And Ishant at the moment is just bowling really well to left-handers. His length's a lot fuller than and a lot more consistently than it has been before. It's going to be another tough morning
Ronak.
for both openers.
Yes, Nick.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to Ajit there. I think the bowlers to bowl a lot straighter. I think they'll have more success.
Ishant Sharma undoubtedly with the new ball round the wicket to two left-handers. Bumrah or Shami from the other end?
Yeah, they went with Bumrah, isn't it, the second innings, because Shami went for a few runs. I think both equally bowling well, both of them. So I wouldn't, I think Bumrah probably because of his performance in that second innings.
All right, thank you Ajit Agarkar and Nick Compton. First session will always give us plenty more to talk about and put things in perspective. Join us for the lunchtime show on ESPN Cricinfo Matchday.